안녕하세요, 오시크입니다. 다들 영화 주전장 기억하시나요? 영화 주전장을 안 보신 분들도 계시고 보신 분들도 계실 텐데, 저는 개인적으로 이 주전장을 굉장히 감명 깊게 봐서 이 주전장을 만드신 미키 데자키 감독님과 인터뷰를 재작년에 진행을 했었는데요. 그 이후 2년의 시간이 흘렀습니다. 이 인터뷰 당시 영화를 만들고 우익 세력들에게 각종 협박과 법정 소송에 휘말리면서 굉장히 큰 스트레스를 겪고 있었는데요. 그 이후로 2년이 흘렀습니다. 과연 그분의 근황은 어떨지 궁금해서 또다시 인터뷰를 진행해 봤습니다. 지금 바로 확인해보시죠. Let's go. How have you been?
I've been good. Busy and I guess some stress, but lately it's been really good in the past couple weeks. And we'll get to that maybe.
As we all know, you made the battleground of the comfort women issue. As a Korean, I love the movie. However, there are some people who didn't like that movie, who are, right-wingers. You have been in trouble for 2 years. What happened?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I got sued by 5 people in the film. Yeah, it's been a struggle and kind of a challenge to deal with this lawsuit for the past 2 years. But just recently, a week and a half ago, January 27th, we got the final judgment of the 2-year trial.
Oh.
Yeah.
The result is...
Yeah, well, I'm smiling, so you can see. It was a huge win for us. And what I mean by that is, so sometimes in Japan, the judges might say, okay, you won, Mickey, but you have to pay a little bit to them or something like that, because they want to make everybody happy. But in my case, it was a complete shutout win. They made many, many claims, but the judge didn't give them any money or any kind of win at all. I won on every single claim.
Wow.
And the final judgment is like 80 something pages long, because it goes through every single claim they make and explains why they're wrong.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. But the people who sued me said that they intend to appeal. So we're gonna have to deal with this for a little bit longer. Hopefully the judge sees their appeal and just says, this isn't something we wanna do again, But it is possible that the judge says, well, maybe they do have a point on this, so we should do another whole trial. So that can take, again, another couple years to do. It's not completely over, but this first win is pretty big. They were like super upset about it. They made ridiculous claims, so it would be unbelievable if we lost somehow. But, it makes total sense that we won.
You have made so much efforts for making the movie for many years. That's why I think you must have been frustrated so much. I'm not sure if I could put up with that situation. The lawsuit had been 2 years, right? So how are you holding up at the time?
It is frustrating. It is very frustrating because it's so detailed, like every little detail about every single email, every single conversation I had with them. We have to really go back in history and kind of figure out like what happened. And sometimes humans make mistakes. So I thought, oh no, did I make a mistake somewhere? Maybe I didn't say something, So you get worried, and then at the same time, there's all kinds of pressure that you feel because this is a really big case, actually. This is about freedom of expression in Japan. So if I lose this case, then maybe it's harder for filmmakers in Japan to do a film on the comfort women issue or other controversial issues in the future. And then also the right-wingers or whoever sued me will feel like, oh yes, this works. We can keep doing this to all these other films and all these other things, right? So I felt that a great deal of pressure. Also, I knew that if I lose this case, the Japanese right-wingers or nationalists, they would use this case as an example, and then they would say like, oh, Mickey lost his case, so this is proof that the comfort women issue never happened. And it's just like, it's totally unrelated, but they'll use it, So I understood that kind of pressure throughout the entire 2 years, and I knew that we really, really had to win. And also, I want my movie to be shown in Japan. If we lose, then I can't really show my film in Japan, and all, it's almost like 2 or 3 years or 4 years of my life have been kind of wasted on making a movie that I hope would be shown in Japan. So, it's a lot of pressure, but I'm really glad, or I'm very fortunate that I had a really good team of lawyers. I had 6 lawyers, and they're all very hardworking and very sharp. They did a great job. Also, my distributor, my film distributor, they were kind of in this lawsuit with me because they got sued too. So they also helped a lot with this whole thing. And so without them, I don't know if we would have won. It helped to have a really good team, I think.
You're very lucky then.
I think so. Yeah, very fortunate.
Is there something crazy story you have experienced from the lawsuit?
Well, I would say like the climax of the lawsuit was in September of last year. So September of last year was when I got cross-examined, which means that their lawyers get to ask me questions in court, and then my lawyers got to ask their people questions. So it was a cross-examination. That was sort of the climax, and the most interesting thing was their kind of like leader guy. His name is Fujioka Nobukatsu. He's in the film. He's the guy that said,
国家は謝罪しないっていうのは基本命題ですから、ぜひ覚えておいてください。
he in court said that when I met him to do the interview, he said that, Mickey, I never spoke English one time. I only spoke Japanese the whole time. And then he said that my friend who was with me, she never spoke to him once, is what he said. He's saying that this girl that was with me never once spoke to him, and then that I only spoke English the whole time. And the reason why he's saying this is because he's saying that Mickey is lying to people, deceiving people to say that he doesn't speak Japanese that well. And then 2, in my friend's testimony statement, she said that she gave the release form to sign to Fujioka, and then they were talking about it. But Fujioka said, I never saw this release form. And so that's why he's saying, I never talked to her. I never talked to her once, is what he's saying. But we had video clips that we submitted to the court as evidence, and they kind of have like sort of, it's not the same clips in the movie, it's like other clips, and you can hear me sometimes, and you can hear, people in the background like asking the questions and stuff. And in this one clip that we submitted to the court, I am speaking English, even though he said I never spoke English. And then my friend who's with me is talking to him, asking him questions, even though he said I never spoke to her once. So it showed that he was totally lying about the whole thing. In front of, everybody.
In front of everybody.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh, I don't remember this. I don't remember, and it was such a great moment. So his whole kind of like testimony was shown to be, it lost the trust in the testimony. And then a similar situation, so there was a guy in the film named Kent Gilbert.
And they were well compensated for what they did.
He's like one of these like white guys who's supporting the Japanese right-wing side on this issue. He is also suing me. Yes, I agree that I signed a release form, but I didn't know what it meant because it was in Japanese. But he's been in Japan for a long time, since like the 80s, right? So, he probably can speak, read Japanese now. He speaks very good Japanese. He's saying, well, I didn't understand it. So in court, his lawyers say, well, he didn't understand the release form, and so he signed it, but, that's not his fault kind of thing, right? And then my lawyers said, well, actually, we have a copy of the release form here that he signed, and it's in English. It's not Japanese.
That's funny.
So he actually signed the English release form. So these are the kinds of things that are happening in this lawsuit that are just so ridiculous. But one thing that I really understood was that when they were asking me questions, they were trying to say like, Mickey, you put this big letters that say revisionist, denialist, and so you're trying to convince the audience that we're like horrible people. And I said, actually, you don't seem to understand the film. And the reason why I say that is because the context of that whole thing is that, yes, I say that they are known as revisionists and denialists. Some people call them revisionists and denialists. but maybe they have some arguments or certain points that we should listen to. Maybe their ideas are a lot more complex than just some kind of simplistic argument. And so after I say that, I give them about like 8 or 9 minutes to sort of lay out their argument. So I'm kind of showing the complexity of their arguments. I'm not trying to convince the audience that they are just revisionists and denialists. I'm saying that's what people say they are, but actually maybe they have legitimate arguments. So they don't understand the film. They don't understand that actually I'm not just labeling them as revisionists and denialists, but that's what they want to believe. In that sense, when I realize like, man, so many of the claims are ridiculous. It doesn't even seem like they understand the movie at all. It just felt like a huge waste of my time and everybody's time. I don't even know if they were thinking about winning. They were probably just trying to silence the film. If they sue me, then many people in Japan will think, oh, that's a movie you can't trust because they got sued, even though the result hasn't come out yet. So it's already had that effect of putting a little bit of doubt in people's minds about my film. And then, I have to do this 2-year-long lawsuit, spending all this money on lawyers and stuff like that. And so they're just trying to like drain me. Basically, this in the US is called a SLAPP lawsuit. I don't know if you're familiar with that term.
SLAPP stands for...
Yeah, well, basically, yeah. Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. So SLAPP. And so these kind of lawsuits are basically lawsuits that are more often filed by big corporations, rich people to shut up artists or activists or people who are just regular people because they have a lot of money and they can just sue. And then those people who don't have that much money, they can't fight back because they don't have as much money. So in the United States, we have these things called anti-SLAPP laws. In many of the states, not all, but many of the states have anti-SLAPP laws. So if the court recognizes that this is a SLAPP lawsuit and this person is trying to silence these people, the court will basically throw out the lawsuit and that person who filed the lawsuit has to pay a huge fine. Then makes corporations and, other people think twice about suing people just to silence them. But in Japan, you don't have that. You don't have those anti-SLAPP laws. And on top of that, even if you win, like I won my lawsuit, that doesn't mean that my lawyer fees are going to be paid. So I still have to pay all my lawyer fees. Even though I won, I still lost a lot of money through this. But in the US, if they don't have an anti-SLAPP law or something, but if you win, at least the people who sued you have to pay for your lawyer fees. So for Japanese people who get sued, it's only minus. You can win, but it's still a minus. And on top of that, one of the big problems is that when I got sued, there was a ton of media attention. But when I won, there was not even, it was probably like, 1/3 of the media that covered it. So a lot of people know that I got sued, but maybe a lot of people don't know that I won. In the minds of many, many people, it's still like, oh, it's that trouble film. They don't realize that, oh, actually, it's the trouble film that won, so he should be totally clear. So that's a big problem.
How could you deal with the money issue?
Oh, my distributor and myself, we basically paid for it together based off of,
You spend all the money you made from the movie on this.
Not all, but a decent amount.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No worries. But that's why I think that these kind of lawsuits are so dangerous. When you hear that their claims are so ridiculous, they don't even understand the movie, it just makes you feel like, man, they're wasting my time, they're wasting my money, all this. This is such a pain in the ass. I would understand if they have legitimate claims and stuff like that, but they don't. It just feels like this is truly, they are trying to just silence the film. And it feels so evil in a way,
Yeah, on the blacklist.
And the other thing is that this lawsuit has been used by the Japanese consulates around the world. So when I'm traveling to show my film, I go to many universities in Europe and America and stuff like that. The consulate, near that university will sometimes contact the university and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't show this film because it's getting sued. So they're using that lawsuit that, these people who sued me are not the government, but the government is using that lawsuit to tell professors and universities controversies, maybe you shouldn't show this film. So therefore, that's why I really feel like this lawsuit is being used as an instrument or a tool to silence the movie in Japan and outside of Japan.
It's much worse than I thought.
And that's the thing is like, it would almost feel okay if we got way more media attention and then everybody understood that we won and they lost and, you know, that's final. But, you know, there wasn't that much media attention when we won. I think a lot of people still think that I just got sued. That kind of sucks. But I will say though, winning was a huge relief. It was like the biggest relief in the world. I didn't realize how much weight it was on me. I knew it had some weight on me, but like the moment that they said that I won, it was just like, whew, you know,
Did you
like
cry?
I didn't cry, but it was, yeah, I was really
I'd have
really
cried if I were you. Not the end, but
it was an amazing feeling.
it means a lot. So
Yeah, it was an incredible feeling, and I don't want to go through it again, but in a way, it was interesting to experience, you know, all that pressure.
ah.